Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Tales of the Valiant Conversions. I'm not really sure what I'm calling this. It's like 5e to Tales of the Valiant. In any event, we're going to convert some 5th edition monsters to Tales of the Valiant since they're not there yet. They might be, with the Monster Vault 2 coming out soon. That's in Kickstarter now, and this is not a promo. I'm not linking to it or anything. I've not been asked to do anything like this. There is the Monster Vault 2 for Tales of the Valiant that's out right now, so do some Google searches and you'll find your way there if you're interested in getting the book. But beyond that, I have no idea if this monster is going to be in Monster Vault 2 or if they even can, considering it's a special name. But we are looking at the Cadaver Collector, a CR14 monster that we're going to convert to Tales of the Valiant. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. We'll just jump right into it. If you want, there's links in the description below to get this tool so you can make conversions of your own or make your own Tales of the Valiant monsters. Check those links, leave some comments. Be super awesome. All right, thank you, and let's jump. Let's do this. Let's get into it. All right, we are looking at a CR14 construct here, and we do need it to be large. So we will come down lower here. I think, yeah, I do have a size tag because I am going to print this out in Home Brewery. So if you're watching this, you too can get this for your Tales of the Valiant games, which will be a lot of fun. We're not worried about our lawful evil, and we're going to go ahead and come back up here and start fiddling with this stuff here. Next we need 17 AC, but before we do that, we're going to go ahead and throw in our modifiers. So we have 5 strength, 2 dex, 5 con, -3 intelligence, 0 wisdom, and -1 charisma. And from the looks of things, we don't have any proficiencies, so we don't have to worry about adding those in. And then from there, we see that we have a base of 12 AC, so we're going to go ahead and add 5 more to that to bring it up to 17. And we are hoping to get somewhere close to 189 hit points, but we'll see what happens, because at the moment, with our monster, we are expecting 280 unmodified. And since I haven't covered it before, for a CR14 with Tales of the Valiant, we have a proficiency bonus of 5, 16 to 18 AC, so we're right in the middle of that. We're perfectly good there. Expecting 280 rough hit points, 9 to 11 attack bonus, 92 to 97 DPR, damage per round, and a 16 to 18 save difficulty check. So let's go ahead and continue on with converting this monster over. Now we do have a bunch of things here to take into account. We also, I forgot to mention, our speed is important. If it's below 30, but since it's not below 30, we're just going to leave it as is because that's the default value for the tool. Now we do have, like I said, in this section here of traits, not necessarily traits, but immunities and languages and senses, which is called like the senses area. We do have immunities to damage, conditions, and then some other stuff here. So let's go ahead and come down to this portion of the tool and start checking off some boxes. So we have immunities to, let's see here, necrotic, and poison, and psychic, as well as bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks that aren't adamantine. Good to know. This is starting to become irrelevant in newer editions of the games, especially in the 2024 books for monsters and whatnot. And then we also have condition immunities. So right off the bat, before we go any further, we do have technically 4 conditions in the immunity section. So we are getting two uses of this, and it's going to be -8 per every two types here. So because of that, we are now going to be getting a -16 to our Cadaver Collector's hit points to adjust for all of these immunities. Make it just a little bit easier to hit when you're not hitting with stuff that it's immune to. Now, I do have to make a note here about the conditions here, and I believe it's just 3 minimum. So, for instance, the creature is resistant or immune to 3 or more conditions, which means it's not multiples like for every 2, it's just 3. So we have charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, and poisoned. So just to make sure everything's correct, I'm going to get just the 3 and I'll add those in later. So we will start with charmed. We are immune to charmed, exhausted, and frightened. That will be our marker here. Actually, I can go another 2. I'll go 2 more. Because if I go to a third, then it's going to give me multiples, and I have to fix that. Let's see here. Paralyzed. So we go ahead and throw paralyzed in. Petrified. And then when I print this out, I'll also add in poisoned. So we're now going from just 16 to minus 21 because of all of our immunities that our monster here has. Now, we also do have senses, so we have dark vision to 60 feet, and we also have passive perception of 10, which is fine. So our 10 is good there, as we see here, and our stealth mod is also a 12, which is important for Tales of the Valiant, not necessarily for 5th edition, so we don't need to make any changes here. And that's pretty much it. We can also add in the languages, and we'll just say understands all, what was it, languages, but can't speak. Okay, so this is nice. It will automatically populate this for the tool when I go to print it out at home brewery. And that's it for that. Now we can move up to here and take a look at some of our traits. We have a magic resistance, which is also right here. So we're also losing another additional 5%. So at the moment, we are now looking at 26% off of our monster's total hit points. And then moving over to the side here, we have Summon Specters. Now this is important because normally in 5th edition, when I've come across these sorts of things, Summon Specters like this only increases the CR difficulty. Now in this case with Tales of the Valiant, because we can create creatures, let's see here. Actually, it's only once. So let's see here. Can conjure, create, or summon its own allies regularly throughout a combat encounter. This is only once during a short or a long rest. We can only do that, like I said, the one time. I'm repeating myself. Sorry about that. Try not to do this. And this is only happening a limited amount of times. We can't do it every round of combat like some of the bigger monsters. I'm trying to think of the Earth Elemental from the Elementals of Evil's campaign. That one could, like, I think with a legendary action, constantly spam out more monsters, so we would take that into account. But since we're not, we don't have to worry about the Summon Specters here, and we can just move on. So next we are going to start looking at the attacks, and we have a multi-attack of Cadaver Collector makes 2 slam attacks, and our slam attacks are dealing, let's see here, 3d8 plus our strength bonus of 5, which is correct, and we need a plus 10 to hit coming from the strength. That is our plus 10 to hit, which puts us right in the middle of the expected attack bonus. Perfectly good to see, so we don't have to double check the chart over here. And then we also have necrotic damage, so 3d10. Now if you're wondering why in the original slam we have 18.5, for every odd number of dice you have to add in a half a point. It's just how the average works out. So if you were to take the d8 and count up all the sides from 1 to 8 and divide it by 8, you'll end up with 4.5, and that goes for all the dice. A d6 is 3.5, a d10 is 5.5, a d12 is 6.5, and so on and so forth. d20 is also a 10.5. So we're going to have very similar stuff here with the d10. This is going to be 16.5. This is our main attack for the slam. We will go ahead and add those two together, and we will end up with 35 average damage for the attack. Now, there's no riders for this besides the necrotic damage, so we don't have to worry about the attack condition, and that is the total amount for this attack here. Now, we do have the multi-attack, which means we will be doing this times 2, and we are looking at an average of 70 damage. And lastly, we also have the Paralyzing Breath. And the Paralyzing Breath, the Cadaver Collector releases paralyzing gas in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in that area makes a con save or becomes paralyzed. Creatures repeat the saving throw at the end of their turns. Now, on something like this, because it's not doing any actual damage, there is a counterbalance here for Tales of the Valiant. They suggest, and I've confirmed this speaking to some of the developers in my initial videos, that any defensive capabilities are basically counteracted by the loss in offensive capabilities. So there's basically more or less an even trade here, even with the paralyzing gas. Now, because this is an action here, we might want to look at real quick this feature right here. This is a monster trait. Bonus action, legendary action, or similar effect that paralyzes, petrifies, stuns, makes unconscious, or otherwise makes a PC lose a turn while... let's see here. While... I lost track here. while still allowing the creature to use its action to do something else. So the Paralyzing Breath isn't actually an action and not a bonus ability, like the bonus action, reaction, or legendary action. So we can't really take this feature into account here. So we're going to skip over that, and we're going to leave this as it is. Now, let's go ahead and finish off our attacks, and we'll say, just for the sake of it, we will be using the Paralyzing Breath. So we use the Paralyzing Breath once in the first round of combat, or maybe in the second or the third round. I don't know. We're gonna use it somewhere down the line, and we're gonna have 0 for 1 round of combat. And then for our second and third round of combat, we have the 70 damage here. So at the moment, if we were to leave everything as is, we have a huge deficit in the expected damage per round for our monster, which means we're going 23 points, which is half of the damage from the lowest value. The difference here from 92 to 46, and we divide that in half for every 2 points of damage the creature's doing under the minimum range expected, and we give that as a bonus. So all in all here, we're looking at a total bonus of 89% hit points. So our Cadaver Collector with just this setup right now is looking at 530 hit points, which is ridiculous. So we really need to ramp up the damage for our Cadaver Collector here in the Tales of the Valiant version, which means this monster, comparatively, one to the other, is so much stronger in damage. Oh, it is devastatingly deadly here. So what are we doing here to really ramp up the damage? Well, we're going to have to increase the amount of necrotic damage. Because technically, I mean, we could also add in more dice for our punches, for the slams. We could do that too, and go from there. So let's see what happens. We need to get as close to 92 to 97 as possible, and that's expecting to use the Paralyzing Breath as well, which likely we'll only see 1 of every 3 rounds of combat. Let's start with, we're just going to double the dice. Let's go from 6 here each, and that brings us up to 86 average actual damage if we are only doing, if we're doing 1 Paralyzing Breath and also the 3 slams, or the 2 slams. That seems a bit excessive, and that's a good question. I don't know how they would deal with this, because likely we would want to use the Paralyzing Breath, so we would have to make up for that. I'm gonna have to study some other monsters on my downtime to see what exactly is going on here when there is an action that is defensive, and see if it balances out, like maybe with a dragon, one of the metallic dragons, or something else that has an effect, and go from there. But for the time being, this might be the way to go, unless we forego the Paralyzing Breath entirely because it's not doing any damage, and we just come back over here and we'll say, let's do it like this. Okay, so let's reduce the dice here a lot and go to, we'll say, let's go with 5 for the slam and 4 for the acid damage. Or not the acid, but the necrotic damage. And that's really close. We're only 1 point over, which technically means there's no bonus. So we are well within our means to use this monster as it is now, with the 5d8 and the 4d10 here. If we drop this d8 to a 4, then we drop down to 90, which is a little under, and that's bumping our hit points up ever so slightly. We could do this too if that much damage seems to be a little crazy, but from the looks of things, if we wanted to, we could say, all right, let's just switch the slam to a d10 as well, and well, we're back to 98. So it doesn't necessarily matter which way we go. This is still going to be about the average damage range here to get this Cadaver Collector here. Well within the range that we're looking for a CR14 in Tales of the Valiant. So yeah, let's just revert this back to a d8, and actually, let's see real quick. 207 hit points and a lot more damage. I would go with that because, like I said, that 1 point over isn't going to hamper really much of anything, and we're looking at an exact 98, 98 DPR and 207 adjusted hit points, which is fine by me. You know, it falls within the range, and we're looking good. And we are at minus 26 adjusted hit points here. So comparatively speaking, our Tales of the Valiant Cadaver Collector is doing a lot more damage and has a bit more hit points too. At 189 for our average Cadaver Collector hit point range, we're looking at, what is that? 8 and 20, roughly 28 or so extra hit points. Fun times. All right, so let's go ahead as the last thing here and print out my script to get the Cadaver Collector homebrewery code, and we'll throw that in place. So we're going to use this over at the homebrewery. We're going to create a new monster, or a new sheet here, and we'll say Cadaver Conversion. And there we have it. That's our Tales of the Valiant custom monster, CR14 large construct with 17 AC, 207 hit points. I do need to add in the one extra thing here, plus one item for whatever that is. And because there's so much here, we'll likely change this into some kind of a trait for the Cadaver Collector to keep that short. I noticed that that's something that Tales of the Valiant likes to do in this section here with immunities and resistances and whatnot. When there's so much going on, they will condense it into a trait rather than use this whole block of code here. And well, there we have it. We have ourselves the converted Cadaver Collector from 5th edition to now Tales of the Valiant. So if you'd like to do this for yourself and convert some monsters on your own time that Tales of the Valiant hasn't done yet, then check the links in my description, get yourself a copy of this tool where you can get it completely for free, or donate if you feel so inclined to, and create some awesome monsters for Tales of the Valiant. It's a better game system. Alright guys, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.